What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a fun new series to introduce, and it's called This Week in the NHL. Now, with the NHL and hockey season right around the corner, I thought it would be a fun idea to come out with a new series breaking down all of the major and small stories from the league and hockey world in general, just in sort of a quick, fast-paced recap video. That way you guys can get all of the major headlines without having to keep up with the sport every single day. So if you guys like this style of content and you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you like this video and comment your thoughts below, as well as subscribe to the channel. That way you get new notifications whenever I post stuff like this. And let's get right into this one. All right, so there's three major stories I want to talk about today, and the first one's coming from the Seattle Kraken. They officially signed RFA forward Maddie to a 7-year $49 million contract extension. Now, coming off a pretty subpar second season, Maddie has two kind of camps when it comes to talking about this contract. On one hand, there's people who think this is going to be a bargain a few years down the line, while some other people feel like this might be a bit of an overpay for Seattle. I'm actually in the camp of the bargain deal. I think that this is going to be the perfect move for Seattle as they continue to go forward. Not only do you have him tied down for 7 years, but at $7 million AAV, this will allow you to build a very good roster around a player who's capable of being a top line guy. For Beniers, I think a lot of players in his position struggle in their sophomore season. Not everyone is McDavid or Bedard with this outrageous potential so early on in their careers. Just look at some other players even within the Kraken system like Shane Wright. People have a hard time adjusting to the NHL, and for Maddie, he had a very good rookie campaign winning the Calder Trophy, so I think it's okay for him to have a little bit of a step back, especially since most of the Kraken roster had that exact same regression. For me, I love this deal for the Kraken. They needed to get this done. This was really the biggest thing on their agenda board, and I think that this deal is going to be very good for them a few years down the line and could even benefit them next season if Maddie's able to get back to that same form that he was as a rookie. Next up, the Toronto Maple Leafs make a change in captaincy, making Auston Matthews their 26th captain of the organization. Now, the only real sad part about this story was the way they pushed John Tavares out into this press conference stage and forced him to give Matthews the new sweater. That felt a little bit degrading, but he seems like he's handling it pretty well and is a good teammate, so that's kind of besides the point. But for Auston Matthews becoming the new captain, I actually think this is the right time to do something like this. Toronto kind of reamped their defense. They got a new head coach who's very qualified for the job, and making Auston Matthews the captain could be the kind of locker room change that you need for this organization, considering all of the struggles that they've had in the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to push Toronto past the first round or really make them any better in the standings, but it could just change the culture over there for the Maple Leafs, something that every hockey fan seems to laugh at the moment. And for Auston Matthews, you're coming off a tremendous season and you're being rewarded for that. So now let's see if he's going to be that natural born leader that we all hear so much about and can take this team to the next level, because they clearly have the talent up front. And with this core four kind of running out of its course, I feel like this is the time for Austin to kind of band them together and show what their potential can really be. This is a cool story for Auston Matthews. John Tavares is still on the team and will be for the rest of the season unless he's traded, but I can't see anybody taking on that contract. So let's see if the Maple Leafs can kind of capitalize on this opportunity and push their team a little bit further in the postseason due to this captaincy change. Last story, and arguably the biggest one from the week, the biggest trade target remaining for this offseason, PATRIK Laine, was officially dealt to the Montreal Canadiens after requesting a trade from Columbus, along with a second-round pick in 2026 for defenseman Jordan Harris. So let's start by grading both teams involved in this trade, and I'll begin with Columbus. I'm going to give the Blue Jackets a solid C here, and the reason I'm being so lenient is because I understand the circumstances surrounding this one. Laine didn't want to play for the organization. He requested a trade. He's not the same player that he was in Winnipeg, and his contract is so immovable at this point that they really only had a third of the teams in the league to make a trade with. And with those few rebuilding teams being interested in Laine, they weren't willing to give up any significant assets for him because he's basically a liability at this point. His stock is at an all-time low. So with Columbus putting out there that he didn't want to play for the organization and teams knowing this, it basically was a perfect scenario for Montreal to swoop in and take a player like Laine, betting basically nothing on him. And for Montreal, let's talk about their grade in this trade. I'm giving them an A+. This is the perfect time for this team to make a move like this. They're not trying to make the playoffs this year and potentially the next one. They understand that they have one of the youngest rosters in the NHL, and now now is the time to experiment with different players that you can acquire either through trades or through free agency. And with Patrik Laine's potential being a 30, 40, even maybe 50 goal scorer at best, this kind of feels like a win-win situation, especially when you consider the fact that they're getting a second round pick along with him to kind of just continue building towards their future. Now, the contract, some people are like, well, this is too much for Montreal to take on, but it really isn't. Like I said, they're not trying to make the postseason, so they can make the money work on their books over the next couple of seasons because they have so many rookies and they're trying to develop all of their young prospects. So it's not like they're really struggling to find money in their organization. For Montreal, this is an excellent trade. They get themselves a 26-year-old winger who has enormous top six potential, where if everything works out, he could re-sign with the organization and be a pivotal piece to their cup runs in the future. And if it doesn't work out, they can just let him walk in free agency and they spent nothing to get him. I think this is the perfect move for Montreal to make it this time, and I think Columbus did make the right choice here. They had to get rid of him for something, and if sending him to Montreal takes the contract completely off your books, then so be it. For Laine, this is the perfect new opportunity for him to kind of reset his career, playing for an original six franchise with a ton of great young players where he can kind of move past all of the stuff that happened last season. Clearly, he was dealing with some mental health stuff and some injury related stuff that kind of had an effect on his psyche. When you can see your team is struggling and you can't have an impact because you're just constantly sidelined, that can be a big deal for players and sort of throw away their love for the game. So I hope that Laine has a great experience in Montreal. He can find his game again and become that amazing goal scorer that we all know he's capable of being. So these are the biggest stories from this week in the NHL. Let me know what you guys think about this series, the Maddie Beniers contract, Austin Matthews becoming captain, and Patrik Laine moving to Montreal. As always, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stuff like this. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.